Wow, this is a special episode. I know we've been saying that a lot, but our lives just keep getting richer and richer with guests. This is an amazing, amazing visit with Gao Motsemme. Um, I'm just going to be honest. It's going to take a little bit of your presence to actually receive what's in this episode. And I really want you guys to take the time and expend the energy to really listen and overcome the technological difficulties that showed up in the transmission, because what is there is such gold.
I agree. Yeah, that's it, man. Just really, what both Mark and I said is we needed to really focus in on our listening sense. And when we did, it was so worth the effort, beyond worth the effort. Just, oh my God, Gao I might have to move to Germany.
Yeah, or work with her online. Like, that's one of the things, as you will see. We noticed that there's been a few more subscribers. Thank you to the new subscribers. Keep subscribing if you haven't subscribed yet. We also noticed that you guys are showing up and listening more on YouTube and getting more from our content there. Great to have you. Please support us there and support our sponsors, the Compton Cowboys and what's the other one? Blast. And, thanks to our sponsors, Adrenochrome Cola, who I think you'll be hearing from someday, maybe right before the election. Who knows?
Nobody talks about Adrenochrome Cola.
Sis, hallo?
Leven.
Stuur zeker wegen dem.
Joh je iets niet, joh.
Two outlaws on the lam, taking the back roads through America.
You can't drink enough coffee for this show.
And now it's time for Monday Madness with the Moped Outlaws, Greg and Mark.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Moped Outlaws. Today, our guest is Gao Motsemme, and I'm pronouncing it as best I can. She identifies as an unapologetic soul liberator, a human MRI psychic surgeon, an embodiment queen, and so much more that words cannot tell. We are so grateful you could be with us today. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. And just jumping in, I normally love to start this with greetings, and I'm extending this to your audience as well. So, dumelang, lokai. Those are my greetings in my native language. I originally come from Botswana in Southern Africa, but I've been residing here in Germany for 10 years plus. And dumelang, in direct translation, that's why I love it, is agree. So as we are here, this is the first time we're meeting, having this conversation. So what are you agreeing to? Even when you are a big fan of Moped Outlaws, what is it that you are tuning in every time when you are tuning in? What are you agreeing to? Because there is a lot of things that are penetrating us every day. It's not only about sexual, but there is information and energy and all that. So what are you opening yourself up out to? What is your intention? And I trust that there have been many amazing experts here. So my invite, when I'm saying, what are you agreeing to, is may we choose to be present without knowing anything and allow whatever wisdom that is going to come through, whatever that is going to come through that is new for us to arise. And I also asked Lokai is, where are you? Locate yourself. Are you here fully in the body, or part of you is still held up with should have been, could have been, and all that? So the invite is, when I say Lokai, take a breath, tune in your body, and feel those sensations that are coming through. Maybe you are getting a knee-jerk reaction. Maybe there is emotions that are coming through, but we're just pulling a chair for all aspects of ourselves. And we are not doing it from the mind thinking. We are allowing the body to be the leader, to inform us rather than us informing the body. So thanks for having me.
Right now, I feel this warmth in my chest and this pressure in my cheeks from the joy that I'm feeling.
Ooh, I love that. I love that already. Yes.
Thank you for that. And I'm present in what is unceded Miwok territory, the ancestors of the indigenous population here in Northern California, in a city called Novato. And I rest on top of my male and white privilege with hope and dreams for a better world, and the willingness to be present with all of the complexities that brings up. And today I am bringing my curiousness and my warm welcomingness and my sense of playfulness, a little trickster fun.
Mm-hmm. I love that just from the beginning, because curiosity is key, because it's also bringing in that inner child who loves to play. And that's where magic is. And I always say this, in a world where change is happening every single moment, every single day. And if you are really curious and you want to evolve, actually, that's it. When you want to evolve, bring in the curiosity and every day look at life from the eyes of that inner child, which is a big part of my work, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. So as I was reading through the different things you sent us to try and understand what it is you do in the world, I noticed there's both the sacred and the magic, and then also what I consider to be somewhat mundane. And I'm going to start there. Are you an accountant?
Oh, yeah. I was, and yes, because it's been part of my life, so yeah.
And that's an important practice. Like, we all need to pay attention to the ledger in our lives, right? Otherwise, we're very unconscious of what we're creating and what the impact is and what the values are. And I find that foundation is a really interesting foundation when we start to look at the other things you do. There's a label that was on your website, and I'm super curious about what it means. And so you called yourself a quantum witch doctor.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
I just want to close some tabs here, and I'm gonna get to that, because that's a huge part of, I would say, when you go through life, like from the beginning, where I just found myself knowing what I knew without even knowing why I know whatever that was coming through. And as a child, you don't hold anything back. It's kind of like, I'm experiencing this. And then from the perspective of the parents, it's kind of like, you want to be a traditional doctor. And then they think they're offering a solution. You need to go to church so that you don't get to be a traditional doctor. Okay. But from the child's perspective, there is still a part of you that is like, what does this mean? So I followed what was recommended, but it was not me. And life also led me to this. So I would say, when I'm talking about a quantum witch doctor, it's the ancient healing that was practiced by my ancestors, that it skipped some generations, or they refused, they ran away from it. But when it comes to certain people, somehow you can't, because you've agreed to that at a soul level. So for me, this was a calling. It's the magic that is within me, it's the healing that I do. And the quantum part is the multidimensional aspect of it, and also the modernized version. Because when I look at my ancestors, the way they did it, even for them to know what is happening, they were throwing bones. So when it comes to me, I was given the bones, but not physically. I got them energetically, and I'm like, okay, fine, then what? Everything is within you. Whether it's plants and everything it's within you. So that's the magic that comes with inheriting this ancient wisdom, but on the other end, adding the modernized version that is also unique for me, because we are all unique, right? So I couldn't take that away from whatever that I was inheriting. Yeah.
So there's a piece about how the English language takes the meaning of this soul calling that you're referring to, and it puts it in a kind of colonialist box. The term witch doctor is really a confining box. And I'm wondering if there's a word in your native language that's more appropriate and more revealing. And if you could take us a little bit beyond the way those two labels kind of limit and contain what it is that you do and free up the thinking around that a little.
When you talk about a witch doctor, because even the witch has its own connotations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not only, like, even back home, there is this, I would say, conditioning that when you mention witch, some people are just thinking, oh my God, something bad, or it's darkness or whatever. There are some people who, there's a point when I wrote in about this on my social media, like, oh, I lied to you guys. I'm not a coach. I'm a fucking witch doctor. So, and then people came through and like, no, you people, I'm unfriending you. You don't deserve to be alive. And I'm like, cool, I respect that. Yeah, so people have whatever that they have. But when I look at the witch doctor, what it entails, it's someone who is connected to the magic beyond the physical. It's someone who is like, basically what I do, I'm not afraid of the dark. We go into that dark, no matter how dark it is, and illuminate that shit. So that's just like part of it, whether it's darkness, because even when you're talking about darkness, what is darkness really, or even the shadows? We're thinking darkness is something like, for instance, when we look at it from the religious perspective, and this is what I say, we have been told who we are before we can find out who we are. And we are being told every day by the religious system, by the educational system, by the medical system, by the political system. We don't know who we are. We are not tuning in with ourselves. We're always listening from outside, right? And whatever fear that is indoctrinated is what we run with.
Powerful.
So, yeah. For me, when I show up, first thing, even if someone can, whatever word that they use, I understand words are very effective when it comes to communication. But on the other hand, like in the research that was done, only 7% of what we communicate, especially when it comes to words, is effective. And 38% is the tonality. And 55% is nonverbal. That also includes the energy.
Yeah.
So when we're showing up with listening, like you say, to just the words, witch doctor, and already I'm making my own conclusion, and either I judge, then we're not going to communicate. You're not going to even give someone a chance to hear what they say. And this is huge, especially that we are relational beings, right? So when it comes to communication, the number one thing that interferes with communication is the judgment. And we do it even if we are not aware of it. And whenever you're showing up from judgment, because sometimes it's unconscious, it's just like when I show up and say I'm a witch doctor, and you showing up with I am a Christian, someone is like a Muslim, already it's kind of like walls, and then we are in these boxes. So already it's kind of like I can't hear you. There's no communication that's gonna happen.
Yeah. That's received. And the power of listening beyond the mind with the heart is so much a part of really seeing and being in the energy. I loved the way you articulated that. Thank you.
And what I always say, especially because we can't take relationships out of it, and I love relationships because we grow through relationships. So often when we are heartbroken, something has happened. The first thing that we do, especially in the world of narcissism, everybody's a narcissist these days, and I'm not downplaying that there is indeed narcissists, but now it's like a word that we throw around because we avoid doing the real deep inner work. So we go and find the red flags. Hey, these are the red flags. Oh, how did I miss them? Now I'm going to memorize them. And then I show up, I meet Mark, or I meet Greg. And when I'm showing up, you're talking, I'm like, is that a red flag? Is that a red flag? You know, I'm not even present to connect, to hear you out. I'm looking for something. I'm in my mind. And the crazy part about this is when you show up in your mind, this is why people will say, I don't know how I missed that. You are easy to be manipulated because you are in the mind. So it's easy for someone to get in your head and tell you what you want to hear. So the magic is in being, because when you are present, you may hear what somebody's saying and be like, oh yeah, that sounds good. But when you connect yourself, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't matter whether it's a business offer, it's a deal, the money is great, but something within you is telling you like, yeah, it sounds good, it's good money, but you're going to pay a bigger price for it. So if you're not present, you're going to miss that, you're going to go with it, and you're going to pay more. It's going to cost you something.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you have 3 children? Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
How do you interact with them with this very heady, deep information in a way that meets the child?
That's a good question. And I'm going to be honest with you, because my son is 17 years old. And at times when I talk to him, he'll be like, Mom, don't tell me something from Google. What do you mean? Something from Google? Like, I don't understand what you mean by that. And then the other time he comes back and he's like, apparently I had someone saying what you're saying. I thought you were just saying something from Google. So I realized that indeed it's true. So it's not like they understand what I mean all the time. But on the other hand, for me to connect with them, it's for me connecting with my inner child. And that's also another good thing, that when we go through life, we experience what we experience. And as a child, you make it mean whatever that you make it mean. And then you become a parent. And then you realize, oh shit, this parenting thing is not a joke. But the good thing with it not being a joke is that I get to see myself, like that version of myself, whether it's 17, 15, whatever age, through my inner child, like, or through my children. And I'll be like, this is what I needed. You know, no matter where they're at, no matter how, whether it's being stubborn or not listening or whatever, I'll connect with my inner child. What is it that I needed when I was at that age? You know, because probably I was not understood by my parent, you know, but I'm coming from there now to say, I understand. Yes, you may be thinking that way, and just meeting them from my inner child. I can only relate them with them when I go back to my inner child. I needed to be seen. I needed to be heard, despite my being stubborn and whatever. So it's a bridge. I find the children, when I connect with my children, it's kind of like the bridge between my inner child and also my parents. It's also, I would say, a healing journey and a forgiveness at the same time, where I'm realizing that, like my children are very opinionated. So if I'm not careful, then it's kind of like power play, you know, where it's kind of like, don't tell me who to be, don't tell me what to think, don't tell me what to do, you know. So I get to meet that through them. And when I look at it at times, I'm like, because I felt like my mom did not understand me. So I realized later, unfortunately, she's gone, that, I was really, that was her, you know, but the part of me that she was not willing to embrace, it was the part of her that was somehow stifled, that was denied. So she didn't know how to accept that because she hasn't accepted that. So through my children, I get to honor that as well, you know, where it's kind of like, or even at times, here's the thing, at times it's even my mom coming through me, because that's how I learned how to parent. You know, you don't talk to me like that. You don't do this and all that. I'm like, take me a step back and like, okay, who's talking here? You know, because as much as our children, you know, they are also human beings. So am I willing to listen to them so that they can also hear me out? So it's kind of like a dance, it's a play, but it calls you to be present in every single moment. And again, when you fuck up, own the fuck up and say, okay, fine. I don't know any better, so I fucked it up, I acknowledge, and I'm sorry. And so how can we make it moving forward? And here's the thing as well with children, especially the teenagers. Even if you're trying to correct it, it's not like they're going to accept it. They may just be stubborn, and it's okay for them to be where they are rather than making them wrong where they're at, and also honoring the part of us that is hurting. Because it's kind of like denial acceptance. And I remember I came across this a little bit of a, what do you call it, a reel where somebody, I think it was a comedian, who said something like, teenagers are kind of like a version of, it's kind of like a God getting back at us to say, I'm going to show you how it feels like for you to deny me. So through our teenage children, they look exactly like us, but they deny us. So it's kind of like, no, I'm not like you, I don't like you, and I'm not going to listen to you. So it's kind of like God is saying, now look at how it feels when you deny me, because at times we play small and we deny the God that is within us. And I was like, when I listened to that, I was like, damn, that's indeed a comeback,
Wow.
Because you feel it.
It never occurred to me before, but that's such a brilliant insight.
Yeah. I agree. As part of the world of sensuality and sexuality, and that being such a natural part of our world, do you find it challenging to support that in your children?
That's another great question. I don't find it challenging. Actually, I love it. I love it because when I take you back to my childhood, being who I am, like I'm this unapologetic person, and this is like my personality. I've always been like that. And I come from a very traditional family. So when I was like 11, 10 or something like that, just showing up, expressing myself, and it was not even sensual or sexual, or maybe it was, because if you have the energy, you just exude it without knowing that you're exuding it. But there were like talks where people are like, does she really want to finish school? And I was like wondering, where is this coming from? So there was that kind of like judgment already that I did not understand. But for me, I can have open conversations with my children. If someone is like, my daughter is 15, she wears something or she dances a certain way, I don't judge her. I'm just embracing her. Or if all there is correction, I always give her like an honest feedback. That's bad, or oh, you rocking that, or whatever. So that's just me, and we can talk. Like my son is 17 now, and I talk to him about all these things, sexual, pregnancy, and all that. And my son is kind of like the I know it all kind of person. Oh, mom, I know that. I was actually surprised when some friends say they don't know that. And where the heck do you even learn that? Like, what do you think internet is for? So we talk about these things. And my daughter, we talk, but she's not open to have the conversations. So it's kind of like, I'll talk, I'll share something with her, and then she'll be like, okay. And then she moves. It's kind of like, and I'm like, we're gonna have to have this conversation at some point, because you're a girl and you get to learn from me. We get to talk about this, and you get to learn to be comfortable with having this conversation. So I'm just grateful that I can hold space, and whether it's a boy child or a girl child, I am open to talk about it without feeling any type of way, which is, I would say that's a gift that I've somehow had, whether despite how I was raised, because looking at how I was raised, I would be judging and even the fear when I look at it, like my daughter is 15 already, so I'm not like, oh, like you're gonna fall pregnant or boys, whatever. No, we having a conversation. Even the other time, she would come and tell me like, oh, this person is dating, they've got a boyfriend and whatever. So we open about it. We already started to talk about it, and looking at my traditional background it's not something that would be easy for me, but somehow it's something that is built within me. So I'm grateful for that. Yeah.
You also mentioned that you went through a very uncomfortable period of time where you were separated from your children for 5 years. How did you help yourself during that period of time? What did you do in terms of your inner world and your soul and your prayer and different things to manage the struggle that must have been part of that experience?
I love that. And all I can say is when it happened, I didn't know any better. So I was raw. I was livid. I craved blood, just like any mother would. And we say this a lot, I would kill for my children. So I was that woman. At times we hold into like the aspect that we become after doing the work, but I was never always that woman. I was just like any other woman who didn't know any better. And I'm just grateful for that broken aspect of mine, that wounded authenticity that has always been in me, because through that, I got to find the help. Sometimes we are holding into, I'm positive, I'm this, I'm going to show up as this, and we hide our wounded authenticity. Because there is a difference. There is the authenticity where it's kind of like, yeah, I'm authentic and this is who you are and you are growing. And at times we can just be someone like, oh, this is who I am. That's who I was. I was authentic but wounded. And it's not the authenticity that was going to take me to where I needed to be, like being here and even more, because I'm here, I'm still evolving, you know. But I was broken. I was all sorts of things. And being that broken and open and not hiding it, it brought me to another level of growth. I still remember when, after I was separated, my daughter was bitten by 2 Rottweilers while I was still here. And at that moment, one thing that I held into was the gratitude that I'm grateful that despite being separated from my children, I've never had to go back because one of my children is sick or something has happened. And that moment I felt like my anchor has been taken away from me. When I received the call and I was just told, we don't know if she's gonna ever walk again. Mm-hmm. And one thing besides the shame of being separated from your children, one thing that hit me was also the guilt, because there's a part of us that always blames us as parents. If maybe I shouldn't have just relocated, you know, all sorts of things, but it doesn't bring anything, you know. So after I went back thinking that I can do something in terms of the justice or whatever, and realized that nothing is working out, and my higher self came through, the message was just like, the odds are against you. You're not going to win even if you try to go back to what again. So you need to do the work. You need to forgive. And I just laughed like a crazy woman. Like, are you flipping kidding me? Whoever the fuck you think you are, God or higher self or whatever, are you telling me to forgive? Do you really know what happened? Do you know what they did? That's how raw I was. And I was asking this question, laughing at the same time, while tears were streaming down my face. Yeah. Just like a crazy woman, but that's where I was. And I was not going to hide away from it. But one thing that happened actually with the accident of my daughter being bitten by 2 Rottweilers, what I felt so strongly was I'm tired of being strong.
I missed what you just said. You felt what strongly?
I am tired of being strong.
I hear that. So much of our culture demands that of women. We feel like it's their job or whatever to be strong, and in parents, and it narrows their capacity to really be in their authenticity, as you said, their truth. Wow.
And we wear it as a mask. We wear it as a mask at times because, like, we have to. But the joy that I felt, and I would say this is also what opened me to the deep sensual connection was letting go of I need to be strong. And for some time, I even hated that when someone talked about you are strong. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'm not strong. So I allowed the vulnerability. That's when I felt the power of being vulnerable and embracing what is here. And for the first time, I felt lighter because I could be and let that baggage just fall and just allow myself to be ugly, and even knowing that I deserve to be loved even in my ugliest moments.
Yeah. And these different things that occurred in your life, the thing with your children and some of the other struggles that you experienced around it, in your website, you say this was the thing that created your initiation.
Absolutely. That's what I felt, that if I went through life first thing with who I have to be, because what I said is life happened because I had to break down all that I thought I was. I had to release that so that the real me can emerge. Who I was, the woman with masks, I was not even enough to be a parent. I was not enough to hold space for my children. And I couldn't even hold space for the clients that my path was leading to. So I had to go through that, because even now when I say I know how it feels to be separated from your children, I know how it feels to not know if you're going to see your children. I know how it feels to even go through divorce in a foreign country. You know, I know how it feels to sleep without knowing where your next meal is going to come from. I also know how to have money when you don't have you. I've been there, but there is another way. It is better. I've been through all that. So when I hold space for you and tell you that I know and I understand, because we like to hold into you don't understand. I understand because I've been there. I understand how it feels to just feel like I don't see the point of being here. God, I want out. But at the same time, there's going to be a time. I still remember there was a moment when it just clicked on me to say, there's going to be a time when your children are going to need you. And imagine if you are not here. They're going to need you at some point. Are you going to be here, or you choosing to be out? And I remember even like when I had my third daughter, when I asked her, why did you choose me? And she said, I want you to help me with self-esteem.
Wow.
At some point, I was like, I mean, I'm here, we're good and all that. But life happened. So now I understand why she shared that with me. I'm going to be broken along the way. Life is going to happen along the way. But Mama, are you going to be present to show me my beauty, to show me that I'm okay despite what I've gone through? So at times, this is the question that I'm also extending to everyone. Whatever that you're going through, at times we identify with that. At times we're just looking at life from here. But the question is, are you willing to live for you so that you can be present for those you claim to love? Because if you are not living for you, you're not going to be able to give anything. And this is what breaks my heart, is that many women, or even men, they're holding to something and they die along the process with an illusion that I'm doing this for my family. Men die in the sense of they are busy slaving, chasing money, and not being connected to themselves, not allowing themselves to live, because they have been conditioned to believe their esteem comes from the amount of money they have. They don't even get a chance to even enjoy that.
So powerful.
Yeah, it's very difficult in our world to disassociate from money, because our livelihood depends on money. How do you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so how do you interact with the world and finances, and you're an accountant even, and bring spirituality into that realm?
Yeah. I love that question in so many ways, because it's not this or which is an illusion that we have. I can either have money or I can be in a relationship. What if you choose to have them both? That is the separation consciousness that has been indoctrinated in humanity for eons, where we believe that I can't have them both. We have to sacrifice something. And often, here's the worst part, often we sacrifice ourselves for something. Often we compromise who we are to get something. And that's the biggest mistake. Because when you embody who you are, when you align with who you are, when you know who you are, then everything is possible. And it's not even about what if I lose it, because you are the creator, right? You can create it again, but if you don't have you, when you lose it, you die, because you've never had you. You don't know who you are without that. You identify with that. Because it's not about what you have, it's who you being. That's why even in the beginning, I said, what are you agreeing to? Where are you?
I'm just letting that land. So powerful. What an amazingly rich presence it is to be in with you. I'm curious. Say that again.
I'm saying presence is everything. Even if it's 5 minutes, just being with somebody, looking in their eyes, even without words, because it's energy. When we are present, somebody can feel, say, no matter how busy you are, but when you take 5 minutes, you may feel like you spend like 24 hours with somebody. Because when you are present, you are fully present with that particular person. I'm going to give you all of me right now, undivided.
Yeah. And we are in receipt of that right now. Everyone listening to this podcast, just know that Gao is giving her full presence. Like, this is such a rich conversation. I want to reflect it back to you, because right now I'm feeling so lit up and inspired, and I'm so grateful for this conversation. This is a great conversation. And I'm going to ask a new question. What is a human MRI and a psychic surgeon do?
As a human MRI, and it's quite interesting because sometimes people ask me, but how did you come around with this name? I didn't come around with it. It's kind of like found me, because when I connect with somebody, we may be having a conversation. Doesn't matter what you're talking about, but the body always communicates with me. So it's kind of like I'm scanning the body, or the body is extending its hand and screaming, hey, this person is smiling and they're dressed so nicely in a suit or whatever, but it's painful here. So the pain's in the body. If it's the inner child, suppressed emotions and all that, I just get to know this is what is happening. So often, despite the words that are being said, what draws my attention is exactly what is going on in the body. So I scan the body. And when you're talking about psychic surgeon, it's now when you say, you know what? I'm willing to listen to this pain, to this inner child. Let's do the work. And I go in and transmute whatever. And at times it's more like mapping the energy. Because I can start with I'm laughing because I want to give you an example, but at the same time, I'm kind of like coming back to my body. And I can start with, let's like talk about the waist, like on the left side a little bit, like there's some heaviness there. That's what it's calling me right now. And I'm not, it doesn't matter who it belongs to, is the energy that is present right now. So I can start with that, where it's kind of like, oh, there is the energy that is here on the waist, on the left. What is here? You know, and as I'm following that, I'm being led to the elbow that is on the right as well. Sometimes it's kind of like mapping, which is quite interesting. You know, you map it, you go around, and at the end you get to where the core is. And then when you remove the core, it's kind of like everything falls in place. So that's the kind of like the magic of this work. Because I dropped in now, it's kind of like, okay, so let's just continue and see what is happening here. So that's what I do. in short about this human MRI. I get to know what is happening. And this is also what makes the work even more powerful. Because it's not about, first thing, we can talk about blocks. But sometimes people are talking about blocks from theory, and they don't even know where that is in the body. So the magic with me is I get to go into the body and know where it's stored and remove it. And of course, everyone can do it if you are capable of being. When you can be, maybe you're feeling some way and you can be with that, even though it's uncomfortable, and see where it's going to lead you. You can sit with it, because everything that can be held, it requires us to feel it. You can't heal what you do not feel. For you to transmute anything, you get to acknowledge its presence. So with my work, I get to acknowledge whatever that is. When I sit with the person, like I started fasting. When I started fasting, I spoke about this heaviness that is on the left side, like at the back, on the left side. And then it took me to the elbow on the left side. And then it took me back to the spine. So we are here on the root. And then it took me back to the power center, by the solar plexus. And now when I sit in with it, I'm feeling the whole left, kind of like the left thigh being sort of like numb or something like that. So there is a lot that is being said here about feeling safe, about manifesting things in physical reality, and also more to do with the feminine, right? It's kind of like the feminine here is wounded, is not fully embraced, right? So that's just like a bit about this human MRI and psychic surgeon work that I do. Yeah.
In doing this MRI and psychic work, and with the current generation exploring aspects of gender and sexuality, and what does, male, female really mean, and sexual fluidity, do you find you're finding these elements of energy and what the youth is exploring in such depth, you see it as a natural part of life?
That's a great question, because I was in this other podcast. I didn't connect the two, although I'm kind of like, because when you're talking about the feminine and the masculine, it's not about whether you are a man or a woman. It's the energy that we have. It's like aspect that we have. It's a principle that is within each and every single one of us, right? And when I'm talking about what I found quite interesting is that when I say connect with yourself and find what is true for you, what is it that your body desires, right? It's kind of like no one will know what you really want or who you are. We can't just base it even on the whatever that everyone is saying, the society, the culture, or what has always been done. This is where it comes to say, really, I can't tell you what is true for you, Mark. I can't tell you what is true for you, Greg. You know what your body is communicating. And who am I to come through and judge and say, this is how it has to be? Am I in that particular person's body? Am I feeling what is happening? And here's the thing also, what I find quite interesting, even when I'm talking about the feminine or the masculine. So at times I'll feel something coming through, and it's kind of like, this is, or even words where I feel like there is a lot that has been said that is kind of like, you are listening to that, or it's more dominant, or it's a deciding factor. You kind of like making decisions based on the noise or whatever criticism that came through. If it's coming through from, maybe it can be coming from the masculine, and I'm like, there's a masculine energy or caretaker or a parent who used to say things to you that are kind of like affecting your self-esteem, right? And when I say masculine energy, you may think that, man, but I was raised from a single parent, family, but you find that even though I'm saying the masculine energy, it's because maybe your mother was more masculine. Like the dominant energy was the masculine energy. She never really brought in him feminine energies, was like masculine and all that. So it's never like, okay, it's just a man or a woman. So it's more encouraging people to listen to themselves, to connect to themselves, and bring in this. Because even when, like, for instance, when it comes to my work, I was given this death acronym, when I was told, go help people heal the death of the feminine, And when I was given death, I was like, are you kidding me? So I'm just going to go there and, hey, I'm going to teach you about death, let's heal the death. Because it's just kind of like funny. But at the same time, like, yeah, I'm serious. And I was like, this is crazy. But on the other hand, when I look at death, the way I was given this death, the D stands for the desires, like your soul desires. The E is the emotions. That is, emotions are the evidence of life, and the A is you aligning to yourself and aligning to your truth. And the T is like that trust. And when you live from this, it will determine the hell or the heaven that you create in life. That is you aligning with that, embracing that. It will determine what you're going to create at the end. And again, when you look at death, when you say healing the death of the feminine, death is like, first thing that the ego has to die for you to even align with your soul desires. If you don't allow the ego to die, you're going to hold into that. Like, for instance, you asked me, are you an accountant? Yes, I was. If for me being an accountant, of course, there was a time when this was like, it was my identity, not because I loved accounting, but I loved how it sounded in the society. Oh, I'm an accountant of this big diamond company. I was, it's kind of like now I was holding into the identity of this company and me working for it, So if this meant everything to me, I would have never, actually, I didn't really accept it because it's kind of like I was forced into it, but we don't have to wait until everything is taken away from us for us to embrace it. But one other example that I can also give is when it comes to Mark Zuckerberg, right? He was in this big, well-known Harvard University. So if you were so attached into him becoming whatever and coming from this university, he wouldn't have followed whatever that he was being called to. So at times when we are attached to something, it means a lot for us and we're holding into it. I'm a doctor, I'm whatever, and then you don't follow what your soul desires, right? And for you to align with the soul desires, for you to allow who you are to truly emerge, you get to allow that ego to die first. And then you embrace the death, which is like your connection to your soul desires and embracing your emotions, because emotions are the evidence of life. And also they show us when we are not in alignment.
Wow. Was there a challenge in leaving the security of a corporate company, or was it an easy change for you to make?
It was not an easy challenge. And here's the thing, and it's quite interesting when you ask that question, because today I was just like in my heart and I'm like, thank you. I was saying thank you to my boss, because I had a boss who was, it was not really good. So I really hated my job because of the way that woman was always on my face, and she kept on saying, I hired you, and that means I can also fire you. Like, that's reminder. And for some time I was like, every time when you have to go to work, your heart is beating. And even then I didn't fully embrace my gift, but every time when there was going to be an argument, I would know about it before it actually happens. So I'll just know, like, I'll wake up knowing that, and then I go to work and then it happens. And when it happened for me to leave that company, the company was downsizing, So somehow something within me, despite the fear that was within the company, there was a part of me that was dancing. This is an opportunity. So I was embracing that. And here's also the cool thing. There is someone who was hired to help us with the transition. And when I talked to this man, he's like, how do you feel? I'm like, I'm excited. And he's like, oh, so you're an accountant? And I said, yeah. And she's like, do you really like accounting? And I'm like, I don't. And he said, that's not it doesn't suit you. So don't give up on finding out exactly what you're here to do. Because when he said it doesn't suit you, I was like, yeah, I know that. But what do you think will be right for me? Is like, I don't know, but keep finding out, and it's never too late to change your career. So for me, it was kind of like everything was just unraveling how it was meant to unravel, and then from there, life happened. My younger brother had an accident, my mom died, and then the whole separation with my children happened as well. So it was kind of like everything was really being turned upside down. Like they say, it doesn't rain, it pours, but it was happening for me. So it's kind of like, when I look at it, it's kind of like at my soul level, I agreed to say at a certain time. So it's kind of like I delayed for some time, so things had to be sped up. So everything was just like happening, fully unraveling and releasing all that I thought I was. And I found myself really naked, which is also scary, but at the same time beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the thought of you having gratitude for this boss, because it tells, I think, what often occurs is the alchemy of something that's very negative or hard, even evil. And when we get to the other side of it and the transformations occurred, you see, oh, that was actually a blessing.
Absolutely. And everything is always a blessing, but the problem is that when you're in the middle of it, you don't see that, you can't see that. Like they say, a jar cannot read itself. And this is why it's important that you find someone who is not attached to anything and they can look at things from that detachment. Because when you are in it, it's kind of like, this is the only thing that I see. There's no any other way. So another person who's like outside can help better than us who like wanted to work no matter what. Because we also love control, right? Which is the ego that loves control. So it has to happen, and it has happened my way, and it has to happen now. So at times we're pushing, even if it's a relationship, I want it to happen and I want it to work out. And I've sacrificed 20 years in this marriage. So there is no, and then it costs you your life. I've seen people who are like really sick, and they're holding into something that is not meant to them, meant for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you've grown through all of these things and these initiations and these transformations, who are some of the people who were your ancestors and teachers?
As in like spirit world or physical world?
Either
one. What are some of the teachers that brought you to this place?
Wow. Actually, when you say either one, what is standing out, which is like a big part of, especially when it comes to freedom, this is why that freedom came through, and then the freedom illuminator just came through being told this way. But when you look at my log, it has a horse. Yeah, it has a horse. And for me, that was the moment when I've had many animals present in my life, but the horse was the moment when I was questioning my decision. I was going through divorce, and the ex-husband now, who was my then husband, moved out, so we like separated. And I was questioning, I knew what I knew. Like I said, my soul was dancing, but my human was afraid. So I was witnessing the true aspect of myself. And some feel, times when it's creeping in, and some voices from my ancestors kind of like, come on, what do you want? It's kind of like I was asking more out of life. You are married, so why not just be happy? And there are times even when I'm talking to people here where I'm like, you know what? This is what because I'll be like, my husband is crazy. He's telling me that he doesn't believe in my path, so I'm just crazy and all that. Yeah, he doesn't believe in the whole calling thing, God thing, healing thing. It's kind of like, what are you talking about? So at that moment, the only person that I had to trust was myself and the guidance that was coming through. So while I was debating, because there was also a lot of voices, a lot of, especially women who went before me, they sacrificed who they were holding into marriage, because that's the only thing that they were told they had to be. They didn't know how to follow their desires or passion and all that. So there was a lot of doubt that was coming through. And one night or one morning, I woke up from this. I got a visit from my horse. And I was it was, for me, it was real in the sense that it was kind of like a vision, but I could feel it. I still remember I put my hand on that horse's neck. You know, the horse's neck is like heavy, and I could feel its heaviness, its warmth. And when I woke up from that, or when I came out of that vision, for the first time, I felt freedom that I didn't know existed. It's kind of like I was just like, actually, it's kind of like it was carrying me on its back with every movement. And I was excited about this process. And another part that also was very supportive, it's also in this journey, I would say it's my soulmate. And this aspect of mine came through before we even knew that we're gonna divorce, or even that is even in the pipeline or whatever. You know, I connected with this aspect in a deeper level that I've never witnessed, a love that I've never experienced. But when I came back to that bed, and I knew I want more of that. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, like, oh, I'm married. So I get my then husband, I'm like, oh shit, am I cheating on him, or what is going on here? I was like, I'm confused here, because what I experienced, and it's also the love that carried me through the divorce. Because I knew there is better, there is love that exists. And this is like an aspect of mine that has always been present with me. And there was a moment, like it's been years now, and there was moments when I was like, I'm just wondering if this aspect is supporting me from the other side, and he hasn't incarnated yet in this physical reality. But as I'm going through that, I'm also getting message that when the time is right, we'll meet. So it's like I'm still holding space for that to happen in physical reality. But it's the connection that I can't explain, but it's bigger than anything that I've ever experienced. It's like a part of me, you know, and even the energy is different. When he shows up, I just know that he's here, you know, but there's some things that I need to work on, and we're gonna meet when it happens. So it's kind of like, that's what is coming to mind about what really supported me in this journey. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for embracing vulnerability and surrender as a natural part of one's being, and not an acquiescence or injury that I often associate with surrendering?
Any advice? The magic truly is being, and here's what I always say, and this is like interesting because it kind of like follows the question that Mike asked. This is also like a big part of the support that I received from Mother Ocean when I was more, and a part of me, especially my emotional base or my emotional home growing up, was anger. I was an angry child. And a girl child, angry, is kind of like, is she ever even going to get married? Are you going to find a partner? You know, that's not a girl like. All that. So it's kind of like, I don't care. But at the same time, when you're by yourself, it's am I really going to find someone? And then you show up, you meet other people, it's kind of like, you want to be nice. Because you are also, when something happens, you hold back. You don't want to say the truth because you are afraid that this monster is going to come out and they're going to see it and they're not going to like it. So it has created the mask, the wanting to be accepted, the playing small, not speaking my truth, looking for approval, which is yucky. You know, so, and I experienced a lot of it when I was going through this emotional turmoil with being separated from my children. And Mother Ocean came through in her glory, in her magnificence. And she said, you need to accept who you are. That is all this anger, all this darkness, all parts of myself that I don't want to look at, that I don't want other people to see. You are all that. And she said, where you are meant to take people, you are not going to do it. It's literally you are afraid of not being loved, of not being accepted. And she said, you think people love the ocean? They don't. People go to the sea, they love being on the beach, wearing whatever they're wearing and looking good. But when it comes to the deep, dark waters, no one wants to go there. When the ocean is angry and it's stormy, nothing stands in the way. But it doesn't change who the ocean is.
Wow.
So with the message that you're asking, the question is, are you comfortable being fake and phony with an aspect of yourself that doesn't exist? Around people that you often as well judge, they're being fake, while you are also being fake. So it's fake attracting fake. You think that you are loved and accepted, but the truth of it is, no, they don't know who you are. Are you willing to show yourself who you are and show other people who you are? Because the truth of it and the magic behind that totally being vulnerable and being authentic is that you get to know who really has the capacity to hold space for you, who has the capacity to love you in your ugliest moment. And those who do not have that capacity, they'll find it. Because at times we feel like we are not supported, we are not loved, and all the stories that we tell ourselves because we are being with people who do not have the capacity. We are not allowing ourselves to raise our magnificence, our extraordinary version. We are being with people who have this small capacity. We are too big for them, and we are afraid of being with people who are as big as we are. But when you open up and allow, then you get to be in the space where you are meant to be. And you get to be with people who have the capacity to hold space for all of your beingness and your realness.
Love that.
Wow. Thank you so much for your generosity and for your presence. And it's such a brilliant light to see you having come through all of the trials in your life and to now be this infinite wellspring of the divine, of freedom illuminated. As we wrap this up, we will put all of the different things for the internet on our thing so people can contact you and see your work and get in touch with you. But we have a question that we ask every guest. And the question sometimes comes up with very unusual and strange responses. So The invitation here is to answer from your truth, which we know, obviously, there's no other way we're going to get from you, right? So the question is a little bit different than you might expect, but here it is. Eminem or the Foo Fighters?
Is it Eminem or the Food Fighters?
Foo Fighters.
Foo, F-O-O.
I don't even know how to respond to that one. Seriously.
Do you know who they are?
I don't know who the Foo Fighters are.
Got it. But you know who Eminem is?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm wondering. Should I now go with what I know? Or should I be curious enough and like, okay, fine, I want to find out who the Foo Fighters are because I don't know anything about them. So are you going to tell me who the Foo Fighters are? Or I just have to make a blind choice?
Well, my suggestion is that you could say the truth, which is, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. And if I have to choose, even if I don't know, it's kind of like, okay, fine, I know a bit about Eminem, but I'm curious about what I don't know about. So I love to be curious. I'll be like, okay, let me choose the Foo Fighters and see where that is going to lead me. Yeah.
Well, we're going to leave it right there unless there's something you want us to say about that for you. Is there something you want around who the Foo Fighters are?
Finish what you started.
Okay.
Yeah.
They are an American rock band.
Okay.
Who are known for being kind of the last of their breed in a way, that play a lot of guitars and play lots of really loud, screaming style lyrics, but who also are very successful in the pop market. And the message that they have is lighthearted about serious subjects. And a lot of their videos are very comedic. They have this funny kind of thing that they do where they sort of make fun of themselves when they do it. And I would love to know how you would explain Eminem to us. What's your awareness of, and how do you see Eminem's music in your life?
Ooh, what is coming through first thing is kind of like there is pain there. Like there's a person that popped up. There is pain there. So I don't know if to say it's processed or it's kind of like I'm just gonna throw it in the music and see where it's gonna go, which is kind of like that's one thing as well with artistic people, where at times it's kind of like the question is, are you doing it conscious or unconsciously? Because you can be good with art or like writing lyrics and all that, but if you're doing it without being present with it, then you're not gonna get much transformation out of it. As I was saying in the beginning, presence is everything, whether you're in the boardroom or bedroom, so, and I just wrote a post again yesterday to say at times it's not about chemistry, it's your presence. When you are present and give someone that attention and everything, it changes the measure in the boardroom, in the bedroom even, or in the boardroom, because it doesn't matter as long as they are present, whatever intention is, or in the kitchen, So I hope that answers your question, but that's like one thing that is popping through like first thing, And I love the lightheartedness of the Foo Fighters as well, because at times we get to make fun about ourselves. We take yourself serious, then I don't know where that is going to lead to. I always, there are times I'll be hating and I'll go and look at myself in the mirror and I cry, and then from there I just laugh. It's kind of like how it's not real. Get over it. So, yeah.
Well, you've been so generous. Both I speak for Greg and I when we say if there's anything in the future that we can do, we're going to finish the podcast. It's going to be published. People are going to hear it, but the energy doesn't stop there. So if there's something that we could do in the future, if there's some way we can support you, if you just need a person to speak with who has a kind heart, please feel free to reach out and we'll let you know when the podcast is published. And with that, I want to say so much gratitude to the ancestors for your presence with us today. I feel so enriched by your energy and your presence, and I'm so grateful that you've given us so much in this hour of our time together.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.